Millionaire slapped his pregnant wife in hospital, but her unknown military father brought his full force. Every oil investor in Texas knew that name. General Williams wasn't just any military officer. He was the man who turned Fort Hood into the most formidable military installation in the United States. Have you ever been hurt by someone who claimed to love you? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The contraction hit her like lightning, but the slap across her face hit harder, especially when the man in the Armani suit had no idea her father commanded 40,000 soldiers. Labor Room 3 at Dallas Memorial Hospital turned dead silent. The only sounds were the rapid beeping of monitors and Layla's sharp intake of breath. Ryan Martinez stood over his wife's hospital bed, his gold Rolex catching the harsh overhead lights as his hand still hung in the air from where it had just connected with her cheek. "Shut up with that screaming," Ryan hissed through clenched teeth. "You're embarrassing me in front of the staff." Nurse Jennifer Rodriguez froze by the floor drip, her eyes wide with shock. In 12 years of labor and delivery, she'd seen everything, but never this. Never a husband striking his wife while she was pushing their child into the world. Layla's dark eyes filled with tears, but not from the physical pain. The emotional blow cut deeper than any contraction ever could. She pressed her palm against her burning cheek, feeling the outline of his wedding ring that had left its mark. "Have you ever been hurt by someone who claimed to love you?" she whispered to no one in particular, her voice barely audible over the medical equipment. Ryan adjusted his designer tie and checked his phone, completely oblivious to the horror on every face in the room. The oil investor was used to getting his way, through money, through intimidation, through whatever means necessary. His wife's labor was just another inconvenience in his busy schedule. "Sir, I need you to step back." Nurse Rodriguez finally found her voice, her training kicking in. Hospital protocol was crystal clear about domestic violence incidents, especially involving military dependents. "Step back." Ryan's laugh was cold and calculating. "Do you know who I am? I could buy this entire hospital wing with my lunch money." But Layla wasn't looking at her husband anymore. Her gaze had turned inward, to a strength she'd buried deep inside. A strength that came from blood running through her veins that Ryan knew nothing about. "You don't know who my father is," she whispered, her voice gaining power with each word. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Nurse Rodriguez began documenting everything on her tablet, knowing this moment would change lives forever. Another nurse quietly activated the security alert system, standard procedure when domestic violence entered their sterile world. Ryan scoffed, adjusting his Italian leather shoes. "Your father? That deadbeat who abandoned you? Please, the man's probably drunk in some dive bar in Atlanta." "My father," Layla said slowly, her voice growing stronger as another contraction built, "is General Marcus Williams. Fort Hood, 3rd Armored Division." The color drained from Ryan's face faster than blood from a punctured vein. Even he knew that name. Every oil investor in Texas knew that name. General Williams wasn't just any military officer. He was the man who turned Fort Hood into the most formidable military installation in the United States. But what happens when the abuser picks the wrong victim? Layla asked, looking directly at the security camera in the corner. She knew someone was watching. Someone was always watching at military hospitals. Drop fire if you think money can't buy you safety from everyone. This father is about to prove that point. Nurse Rodriguez's tablet pinged with an automatic alert. Military-dependent assault. Priority 1. The notification was already bouncing through secure channels, racing across fiber optic cables toward a satellite communication system that would reach all the way to a Syrian desert compound. Ryan tried to regain his composure, but sweat beads were forming on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "You're lying. Your father left when you were 10. He chose the military over his family. He chose duty over comfort," Layla corrected, feeling their son moving inside her, ready to enter a world where his grandfather would finally be present to protect him. "There's a difference." The hospital's alert system was already working. Within minutes, the incident report would reach the Military Family Crisis Center. Within an hour, It would be prioritized and forwarded to the appropriate commanding officers. And somewhere in the Middle East, a satellite phone would ring in the dead of night. Ryan pulled out his phone, frantically scrolling through contacts. I can make this go away. Money talks louder than any uniform. Not this time, Layla said, feeling the baby's head crowning. Not when you picked the wrong woman to hit. Her contractions were coming faster now, but the pain felt different. It felt like justice building inside her, ready to be born alongside her son. She thought about her father, the man who'd missed her childhood because he was protecting other people's children in foreign countries. The man who'd sent birthday card from combat zones and called when satellite connections allowed. The man who was about to learn that his daughter needed him. Dr. Sarah Chun entered the room, immediately sensing the tension. What's happening here? Everything's fine, Ryan snapped, but his voice cracked on the last word. Sir, I'm going to need you to leave, Dr. Chin said firmly. Now. As Ryan reluctantly backed toward the door, Layla felt something shift inside her that had nothing to do with childbirth. For the first time in 3 years of marriage, she wasn't afraid of him. She was thinking about the stories her mother used to tell, about a young soldier who could command respect with just his presence, who'd earned every medal on his chest through courage under fire. The call reached General Williams' satellite phone in Syria at 0300 hours. 3 words changed everything. Your daughter, sir. He'd survived roadside bombs in Baghdad and Taliban ambushes in Kandahar, but nothing prepared him for the phone call that turned a decorated war hero into a vengeful father. The secure communication tent at Forward Operating Base Damascus hummed with electronic equipment, screens glowing blue in the pre-dawn darkness. General Marcus Williams sat at his field desk, reviewing intelligence reports that could determine the fate of thousands of soldiers. At 52, his hair had gone completely gray, but his dark eyes still held the sharp focus that had made him legendary among military personnel. His satellite phone buzzed with an encrypted call. The caller ID showed Fort Hood Emergency Services. General Williams, he answered, his voice carrying the authority that came from 30 years of command decisions. Sir, this is Colonel Janet Hayes, Fort Hood Family Crisis Center. We have a priority alert concerning your daughter, Layla Williams Martinez. The pen in his hand stopped moving. His daughter, the little girl he'd held for 6 precious months before his first deployment. The child he'd watched grow up through video calls and birthday photos sent across oceans and combat zones. What happened? His voice remained steady, but every muscle in his body tensed like a loaded spring. Sir, she was assaulted by her husband during childbirth. Dallas Memorial Hospital. The incident was recorded and reported through our domestic violence protocols. The intelligence reports scattered to the floor as General Williams stood, his chair sliding backward. Around the tent, junior officers glanced up from their workstations, sensing the shift in their commander's energy like animals sensing an approaching storm. Assaulted how? The question came out as sharp as a blade. Physical strike to the face during active labor, sir. Hospital staff documented everything. The perpetrator is Ryan Martinez, oil investment executive. No prior military connections. General Williams closed his eyes, but instead of seeing the Syrian desert, he saw a hospital room 3,000 miles away where his daughter, his baby girl, had been hurt by the man who'd promised to protect her. Have you ever felt powerless to protect someone you love? He asked, not realizing he'd spoken aloud. Sir, Colonel Hayes asked, status of my daughter and grandchild? Both stable, sir. Healthy baby boy born 2 hours ago. Your daughter specifically requested that you be notified. His grandchild, born into violence instead of love. General Williams thought about his own father, who'd taught him that a man's first duty was to protect his family. He'd failed at that lesson once, choosing military service over being present for his daughter's childhood. But he wouldn't fail again. What happens when that distance finally closes? He murmured, already moving toward his communication equipment. The memories hit him like enemy fire. Layla at 5 years old, crying because daddy had to leave again. Her mother's divorce papers citing his chronic absence and emotional unavailability. Video calls from Afghanistan where Layla would hold up school projects and report cards to a pixelated screen, trying to share her life with a father who existed more as a voice than a presence. He'd made his choice then: duty over family, service over self. The military needed him, and he'd answered that call without question. But sitting in this tent, surrounded by the machinery of war, he realized that some battles were more important than others. "Sir, what are your instructions?" Colonel Hayes asked. General Williams opened his secure laptop and began typing commands that would set multiple systems in motion. "I need immediate transport to Dallas. Priority Alpha authorization." "Sir, you're currently assigned to operation." "Colonel," his voice carried the weight of 3 decades in uniform, "my daughter was assaulted. My grandson was born into violence. What happens when a father's duty finally comes home?" He began making calls. First to his commanding officer, requesting emergency family leave. Then to his second-in-command, transferring operational authority. Finally, to the transportation command. "This is General Williams. I need a bird to Frankfurt connecting to Dallas-Fort Worth. Timeline, immediate." The young sergeant handling transport logistics stammered. "Sir, the next scheduled military transport isn't until..." "Sergeant, do you see these stars on my uniform?" "Yes, sir. Each one represents the authority to move heaven and earth when family is threatened. Find me transport. Now." General Williams had spent 15 years telling himself that serving his country was the highest form of love he could show his family. That protecting freedom abroad meant protecting his daughter at home. But listening to the details of Ryan's assault, he understood with crystalline clarity that he'd been wrong. His daughter had needed him to be a father, not a hero. The transport manifest came through within minutes. Military cargo plane departing in 2 hours, connecting through Germany to civilian transport into Dallas. Total travel time, 18 hours. 18 hours too long. Comment father's fury if you think Ryan has no idea what's coming for him. As he packed his dress uniform. The blue jacket heavy with ribbons and medals earned in foreign wars. General Williams thought about the irony. He'd fought enemies on 3 continents, survived attacks that killed good soldiers, and commanded operations that saved thousands of lives. But he'd never felt more like a warrior than he did right now, preparing to protect his daughter from a man who thought wealth meant power. Ryan Martinez was about to learn the difference between bought respect and earned authority. "Sir," his aide-de-camp appeared at the tent entrance. "The transport is ready." General Williams shouldered his deployment bag and walked toward the helicopter that would begin his journey home. As the rotors spun up, drowning out the desert wind, he made a promise to the granddaughter he'd never met and the daughter he'd failed to protect. This time, he wouldn't choose duty over family. This time, he would be the father his daughter deserved. As General Williams boarded the military transport to Texas, he made one call to his second-in-command. "Prepare a detail. We're going to Dallas. And son, bring the dress blues." Ryan was counting his oil profits when he should have been counting the hours until a father's reckoning arrived at his door. The 38th floor of the Martinez Investment Building offered a commanding view of downtown Dallas, but Ryan wasn't looking at the skyline. He was staring at his phone, watching his stock portfolio climb while his wife recovered from what he kept calling her little episode. "Mr. Martinez, the hospital called again," his assistant Sarah announced from the doorway. "They're requesting you return for some paperwork." Ryan waved her away without looking up from his computer screens. "Tell them I'm busy. Whatever they need can wait until I have time." 3 monitors displayed his various investment accounts: oil futures, real estate portfolios, tech stocks, all climbing steadily upward. Money was power, and power meant problems disappeared. It had always worked that way in Ryan's world. "Sir, they mentioned something about incident reports in..." "Sarah." Ryan's voice carried the same dismissive tone he used with Layla. "Do you know how much money I made while you've been standing there bothering me about hospital paperwork?" She checked her tablet nervously. "No, sir. $43,000. In the 2 minutes you've been wasting my time, I've made more money than most people see in a year." He finally looked up, his cold blue eyes holding no warmth. "So unless the hospital is on fire, I don't want to hear about it. But down in the hospital's administrative offices, wheels were already turning that Ryan's money couldn't stop. The incident report had been filed, photographed, and uploaded to secure military databases. Layla's assault wasn't just a domestic dispute anymore. It was a federal case involving military family members. Have you ever underestimated someone because of appearances? Layla had asked the security camera, and now that question was about to haunt every comfortable assumption Ryan had ever made. His phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer. Need to discuss the hospital situation. Can't make this disappear like usual. Ryan frowned, setting down his Italian espresso. For 3 years, his legal team had handled every problem with precision. Parking tickets, business disputes, even that unfortunate incident with the golf club employee who'd accused him of harassment. Money had made it all vanish like morning fog. Get Morrison on the line, he barked at Sarah. While he waited for his lawyer to call back, Ryan walked to his floor-to-ceiling windows and admired his reflection in the glass. Armani suit tailored to perfection, Rolex Presidential on his wrist, Italian leather shoes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. This was what success looked like. His phone rang. Morrison, what's this nonsense about the hospital? Ryan, we have a problem. His lawyer's voice carried an unusual tension. Your wife's father isn't some deadbeat like you thought. So, I don't care if he's the Pope. Money talks louder than. He's a 3-star general, Ryan. Military. The kind of man who has resources you can't buy. The espresso cup slipped from Ryan's hand, shattering on the marble floor. What do you mean, military? I mean your wife is General Marcus Williams' daughter. And when you hit her, you didn't just commit domestic violence. You assaulted a military dependent. That puts this under federal jurisdiction. Ryan's reflection in the window suddenly looked less imposing. Federal? Morrison, you're being dramatic. It was a small disagreement between husband and wife. Nothing more. Ryan, there's video footage. Hospital staff witnessed everything. And the military doesn't negotiate with civilians who hurt their families. The oil investments that had been climbing all morning suddenly seemed meaningless. Ryan had built his empire on the foundation that everything had a price, everyone could be bought, and problems were just opportunities to spend money creatively. Which force proves stronger when push comes to shove? Layla's voice echoed in his memory. And for the first time, Ryan wondered if he'd bitten off more than he could swallow. He began making calls, first to his congressman, then to the judge he'd helped finance last election, finally to the police chief whose re-election campaign Ryan had funded generously. Each conversation ended the same way. Sorry, Ryan, but military family assault is out of our jurisdiction. Hit the like button if you're Team General Williams. Share if you think Ryan's about to learn some hard lessons. Down at Dallas Memorial Hospital, security footage was being copied and transmitted through channels Ryan had never heard of. Military intelligence analysts were reviewing every angle, every word, every damning second of his assault on Layla. The hospital's chief administrator, Dr. Patricia Vance, had seen wealthy patients try to intimidate staff before, but she'd never seen anyone stupid enough to assault a general's daughter. Mr. Martinez called again. Her assistant reported. He wants all copies of the incident report destroyed. He's offering substantial donations to the hospital foundation. Dr. Vance looked at the military liaison officer who'd arrived an hour after the incident. What do you think, Major? I think Mr. Martinez doesn't understand that some things aren't for sale, Major Thompson replied. General Williams has commanded respect in war zones where money means nothing. His daughter's safety isn't a business transaction. Ryan's phone kept buzzing with increasingly desperate calls from his legal team, but the message was always the same. This wasn't going away. Federal domestic violence charges carried mandatory minimums. Military families received protections that civilian money couldn't override. For the first time in his adult life, Ryan Martinez was facing a problem that couldn't be solved with his checkbook. As his lawyer explained the various federal statutes that applied to military family assault, Ryan stared out at the Dallas skyline and wondered if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Somewhere out there, a man he'd never met was traveling thousands of miles for one purpose: to make sure Ryan understood that money couldn't buy immunity from a father's justice. The hospital security footage that Ryan thought he'd buried was already being analyzed in a military intelligence facility. Every angle, every frame, every damning second. She hadn't spoken to her father in 15 years, but when his voice came through that hospital phone, she remembered why soldiers followed him into battle. Room 314 at Dallas Memorial felt different now. The harsh fluorescent lighting seemed softer, and even the constant beeping of medical monitors sounded less intrusive. Layla held her newborn son against her chest, feeling his tiny heartbeat sync with her own as she waited for the call she'd requested through the military family liaison. The phone rang at exactly 1,400 hours, military precision even from halfway around the world. Layla, her father's voice carried across continents, oceans, and 15 years of silence. It was deeper than she remembered, weathered by command decisions and foreign deployments. But underneath the authority was something she'd forgotten: gentleness. "Daddy," the word came out as a whisper, carrying all the longing she'd buried since childhood. "Baby girl, are you hurt? Tell me exactly what happened." She touched her cheek where Ryan's hand had left its mark. "He hit me, Dad, while I was in labor. He hit me because I was making too much noise." The silence on the other end stretched for 10 seconds, long enough for her to wonder if the connection had dropped. When her father spoke again, his voice carried a controlled fury that made her understand why enemy combatants surrendered when they heard his name. "Where is he now?" "Gone. Hospital security escorted him out after I told them who you were." She adjusted the baby's blanket, marveling at how peaceful her son looked despite the chaos surrounding his birth. "Dad, I know we haven't talked in." "That's on me, not you," he interrupted. "I chose service over being present. I chose duty over being the father you needed. But I'm choosing differently now. Have you ever had someone come to your rescue when you needed it most?" she asked, remembering the hospital staff's immediate response when she'd mentioned her father's name. "I'm the one who should have been rescuing you all along," he replied. "But I'm going to fix that, starting now." Through the phone, she could hear the sounds of military equipment, voices calling orders, helicopter rotors spinning up. Her father was mobilizing something, and the thought should have scared her. Instead, it filled her with a security she hadn't felt since childhood. "What are you doing, Dad?" "Coming home. I should have done it 15 years ago when your mother filed for divorce. Should have done it when you graduated high school without me there. Should have done it when you got married to a man I never met." His voice softened. "But I'm doing it now when my daughter and grandson need protection." Layla shifted the baby to her other arm, still amazed that this tiny person was hers. "His name is Marcus. After you." Another pause. When her father spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "You named him after me? Mom always said you were a good man who made hard choices. She said you chose to protect other people's children because that's what heroes do." Layla wiped away tears she didn't realize were falling. "I wanted my son to have a hero's name." "Family bonds stronger than time or distance," her father said, and she could hear him moving, equipment being packed, orders being given to subordinates. "Dad, Ryan has money. Lots of it. He'll try to make this go away, say it never happened." General Williams' laugh was sharp and humorless. "Money is what men use when they don't have real power. Your husband is about to learn the difference." Through the phone, she heard him addressing someone else. "Major, I need a secure line to Fort Hood. Full briefing on civilian domestic violence protocols. And give me everything we have on Ryan Martinez, financial records, business associates, parking tickets. Everything." "You're investigating it?" Layla asked. "Honey, when you assault a military family member, you don't just get arrested. You get studied. Every financial transaction, every business deal, every relationship gets examined under a microscope. Rich civilians think wealth makes them untouchable. They forget that military intelligence doesn't care about bank account balances." The baby stirred in her arms, making soft sounds that reminded her why this fight mattered. Her son would grow up knowing his grandfather, not as a distant voice on holiday phone calls, but as a present, protective force in his life. "What happens when protection arrives with military precision?" she asked, feeling stronger with each word her father spoke. "It arrives completely and permanently," he replied. "I failed you once by choosing duty over family. I won't make that mistake again." "Dad, you didn't fail me. You were protecting the country. I understand that now. Understanding and accepting are different things, baby girl. You needed your father, and I wasn't there. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you and your son know what protection actually feels like." Type backup if you've ever had family show up when you needed them most. The hospital room door opened, and Nurse Rodriguez entered with discharge paperwork. She smiled when she saw Layla on the phone. "Is that your father?" she asked quietly. Layla nodded, feeling a pride she hadn't experienced in years. "This is my dad, General Williams." "Ma'am," Nurse Rodriguez said toward the phone, "your daughter was incredibly brave today. She never stopped fighting, never gave up. You raised a strong woman. That strength came from her mother," General Williams replied, his voice carrying across the speaker. "But she's about to see where her protective instincts come from." As they wrapped up the call, Layla felt something shifting inside her that had nothing to do with recovery from childbirth. For 15 years, she carried the weight of feeling abandoned by her father. But listening to the command in his voice, the precision of his planning, the absolute certainty that he would fix this situation, she understood that she'd never been abandoned at all. She'd been protected from a distance by a man who fought wars so she could live in peace. The only problem was, peace had been shattered by the man who'd promised to love her. As General Williams' plane touched down at Dallas-Fort Worth, Ryan was making his biggest mistake yet, threatening to take Layla's newborn son away from her if she didn't keep her mouth shut about family business. The most dangerous moment isn't when the storm hits. It's the eerie quiet just before, when predators still think they're safe. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport buzzed with typical afternoon activity, but Terminal D had an unusual addition. A military transport had landed at 1,630 hours, and passengers waiting for commercial flights watched through floor-to-ceiling windows as uniformed personnel unloaded equipment with precision that civilian travelers found both impressive and intimidating. General Marcus Williams stepped off the aircraft wearing his dress blue uniform, the ribbons on his chest telling stories of conflicts most Americans only read about in history books. 3 decades of military service had taught him that the most effective operations began with careful reconnaissance and strategic positioning. His first stop wasn't the hospital. It was Fort Hood. "Sir, Colonel Hayes is waiting in conference room," Major Thompson reported as they entered the base's Family Crisis Center. "All relevant files have been prepared for your review." The conference room held maps, photographs, and documents that painted a complete picture of Ryan Martinez's life. Financial records, business partnerships, property holdings, legal history. Everything that money usually kept private was now spread across a government table under fluorescent lights. "What's our legal position?" General Williams asked, studying a photograph of Ryan's downtown office building. "Rock solid, sir," Colonel Hayes replied. "Federal domestic violence statutes, military family protection protocols, and Texas state assault charges. Mr. Martinez committed multiple felonies in front of witnesses with video documentation." General Williams nodded, but his focus remained on the intelligence reports. What about his resources? Political connections? Substantial, but irrelevant. He's made donations to local campaigns, maintains relationships with city officials, belongs to exclusive country clubs. However, none of that provides protection against federal military family assault charges. The general studied Ryan's financial portfolio, noting the oil investments, real estate holdings, and offshore accounts. He's used to buying his way out of problems. "Yes, sir. Our investigation shows 3 previous incidents where legal problems disappeared after substantial financial considerations were provided to appropriate parties." "Have you ever felt that moment when help was finally on the way?" General Williams asked, thinking about his daughter recovering in a hospital room across the city. "Sir," Major Thompson looked confused. "Nothing major. What's Mr. Martinez's current status?" "He's made multiple attempts to contact hospital administration, offering donations in exchange for incident report suppression. He's also reached out to his legal team, several political contacts, and the hospital's board of directors. General Williams smiled grimly. And their responses? Universal refusal, sir. Nobody wants to interfere with military family protection protocols. Meanwhile, across Dallas in his luxury penthouse, Ryan was discovering that his normal problem-solving methods weren't working. His lawyer had stopped returning calls. The judge he'd helped elect was suddenly unavailable. Even his golf buddy, the police chief, claimed jurisdiction issues prevented any assistance. "Sarah, get the hospital CEO on the line," Ryan demanded, pacing between his wall of awards and his collection of oil paintings, both purchased to impress visitors with his wealth and taste. "Sir, Dr. Vance's office says she's in meetings all afternoon." "Then offer her foundation a $1 million donation. $2 million, whatever it takes." But Dr. Vance wasn't in meetings. She was reviewing military protocols with the base commander from Fort Hood, understanding that Dallas Memorial Hospital was about to become the center of something unprecedented, a 3-star general personally handling his daughter's assault case. "What happens when careful planning meets explosive action?" she murmured, looking at the security footage that showed Ryan's attack on Layla. Back at Fort Hood, General Williams was conducting what the military called a full-spectrum analysis, examining every angle, every possible complication, every resource Ryan might deploy to escape consequences. "Sir, we've also identified irregular financial patterns in Mr. Martinez's recent transactions," Colonel Hayes reported. "Large cash withdrawals, offshore transfers, possible tax avoidance schemes." "Interesting. Forward that information to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division." "Already done, sir." General Williams appreciated thoroughness. In combat zones, overlooking details got soldiers killed. In family protection operations, overlooking details let predators escape justice. His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. "Dad, Ryan came to the hospital. He's threatening to take Marcus away from me. Says I can't prove anything." The general's jaw tightened as he typed back. "He can threaten whatever he wants. Empty threats from empty men. You and Marcus are protected now." But he knew threats often escalated to action when cornered animals realized their usual escape routes were blocked. Ryan Martinez was about to discover that attacking a general's daughter came with consequences that money couldn't negotiate away. "Major Thompson, I want a discreet security detail on my daughter and grandson. Round-the-clock protection until this situation is resolved." "Yes, sir." "How discreet?" "They won't know the detail is there, but anyone approaching with hostile intent will be intercepted and detained. Comment, 'Justice incoming,' if you're ready for Ryan to face consequences." The sun was setting over Dallas, painting the skyline in shades of orange and red that reminded General Williams of dawn breaking over Syrian mountains. But this wasn't a foreign battlefield. This was home, and the enemy was a man who thought wealth provided immunity from father's justice. His phone rang. Layla's number. "Dad, he's getting desperate. Ryan's lawyer quit. His political friends won't return his calls. He's talking about fleeing to his property in the Cayman Islands." "Let him run," General Williams replied calmly. "Flight risk charges will be added to his federal indictment. Military intelligence tracks fugitives anywhere in the world. Geography isn't a defense against justice." "I am scared, Dad. Not of him anymore, but of what this means for Marcus. Growing up with all this violence and legal problems." General Williams looked at the photographs spread across the conference table. His daughter in her hospital bed, his grandson sleeping peacefully despite being born into chaos. Ryan Martinez thinking money would save him from consequences. "Your son will grow up knowing that actions have consequences, that family protects family, and that no amount of money can buy the right to hurt people you love." As General Williams prepared to leave Fort Hood for Dallas, he made one final call to his aide-de-camp. "Prepare dress uniforms for a formal hospital visit. Mr. Martinez needs to understand he's not dealing with civilian law enforcement anymore." The storm was about to hit, and Ryan Martinez was still counting money while standing in the path of a hurricane. General Williams stood outside the hospital, dress uniform immaculate, knowing this was the moment 15 years of regret would either destroy him or redeem him. Inside, Ryan was about to meet his daughter's father. Two men entered that hospital room. One who bought respect, one who earned it. Only one would leave with his dignity intact. The elevator doors opened on the third floor of Dallas Memorial Hospital with a soft ding that somehow sounded like a warning bell. General Marcus Williams stepped out, his dress blues immaculate under the harsh lighting. 3 rows of ribbons telling stories of courage that Ryan Martinez would never understand. Behind him walked Major Thompson and 2 military police officers, their presence transforming the sterile hospital corridor into something that felt more like a courthouse than a medical facility. Room 314's door stood slightly open. Inside, Ryan was pacing between the window and Layla's bedside, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the linoleum floor as he gestured wildly with his hands. "You need to fix this, Layla. Call your father and tell him it was all a misunderstanding. Tell him you fell or something. I'm not lying for you anymore," Layla replied, holding baby Marcus against her chest like a shield. "Especially not to him." "Not to who?" Ryan spun around, and his face went white as General Williams filled the doorway. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Even the medical equipment seemed to quiet, as if the machines themselves recognized the presence of real authority entering their space. General Williams wasn't a tall man, 5 feet 10 inches, but he commanded space like he owned it. 30 years of leading soldiers into combat had taught him that presence mattered more than size, and confidence mattered more than volume. "Mr. Martinez, I presume." His voice carried the kind of quiet power that made colonels snap to attention and enemy combatants surrender without firing a shot. Ryan's expensive suit suddenly looked like a costume next to a real uniform. His gold jewelry seemed cheap and flashy compared to ribbons earned in battle. His perfectly styled hair looked overdone next to a military haircut that spoke of discipline and purpose. "Have you ever seen someone's true character revealed under pressure?" General Williams asked, studying Ryan like a scientist examining bacteria under a microscope. "Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Ryan stammered, unconsciously backing toward the window. "Your daughter and I had a small disagreement during a stressful time. Nothing more. A disagreement." The general's voice remained level, but something dangerous flickered in his dark eyes. "Is that what you call striking a woman in labor?" Layla watched her father with amazement. This was the man she remembered from childhood, calm in crisis, unshakable under pressure, absolutely certain of his moral ground. She'd forgotten how safe his presence made her feel. "Daddy," she said softly, and Ryan flinched at the warmth in her voice. General Williams moved to his daughter's bedside without taking his eyes off Ryan. "How are you feeling, baby girl?" "Better now that you're here." She held up the baby. "Dad, meet your grandson, Marcus Williams Martinez." The general's expression softened as he looked at the sleeping infant. "He's beautiful, strong jaw like his grandfather." Ryan watched this family reunion with growing panic. His usual tactics, intimidation, bribery, legal threats, meant nothing here. This man didn't care about money or influence. He cared about his daughter and grandson, and Ryan had hurt them both. "Real power versus artificial influence," General Williams murmured, gently touching the baby's tiny hand. "Which man do you think walks away from this encounter?" "Sir, perhaps we could discuss this privately," Ryan suggested, pulling out his phone. "I'm sure we can reach some kind of arrangement that benefits everyone." Arrangement? The general turned his full attention back to Ryan, and the younger man immediately understood why enemy soldiers surrendered rather than face this man in combat. "You think my daughter's safety is a business transaction?" Ryan's hands were shaking now, though he tried to hide it by adjusting his tie. "I have resources, connections. I could make substantial donations to military charities, veteran organizations. Whatever you think is appropriate." Major Thompson stepped forward from his position by the door. "Sir, Mr. Martinez is attempting to bribe a federal officer during an active domestic violence investigation." "Add that to his charges," General Williams replied calmly, "along with witness intimidation and obstruction of justice." The walls were closing in on Ryan faster than he could process. Every word out of his mouth was making his situation worse, but panic was replacing his usual calculated thinking. "You can't arrest me." Ryan's voice cracked like a teenager's. "I have rights. I have lawyers." "You had rights," General Williams corrected. "You forfeited them when you raised your hand to my daughter. As for lawyers, good luck finding one willing to defend someone who assaulted a three-star general's family." Hit subscribe if you want to see how this confrontation ends. Comment your prediction below. Ryan looked around the room desperately, searching for an escape route or someone who might support him. But the nurses avoided eye contact. The hospital security guard by the door was clearly deferring to military authority, and even his own wife was looking at him like a stranger. "Layla, tell him," Ryan pleaded. "Tell him how good I've been to you. The house, the cars, the jewelry. Tell him about our life together." "Our life together?" Layla's voice carried a strength Ryan had never heard before. "You mean the life where you controlled every dollar I spent, every friend I could see, every decision I could make? That life. I provided for you. I gave you everything money could buy." "Everything except respect," she replied. "Everything except safety. Everything except love." General Williams watched this exchange with the satisfaction of a chess player seeing his opponent's position collapse. Ryan Martinez had revealed himself completely, not as a successful businessman, but as a controlling abuser who confused wealth with worth. "Mr. Martinez," the general said quietly, "in 30 years of military service, I've seen men face death with honor and dignity. I've seen soldiers sacrifice everything for principles they believed in. You're not that kind of man." Ryan's last thread of composure snapped. "You think your uniform impresses me? You think your medals matter? I could buy and sell you 10 times over." The silence that followed was deafening. Even baby Marcus seemed to sense the shift in energy, stirring slightly, but remaining peaceful in his mother's arms. General Williams smiled, a cold, professional expression that made Ryan's blood freeze. "Mr. Martinez, you just threatened a federal officer in front of witnesses while under investigation for domestic violence. How do you think that's going to work out for you?" Major Thompson was already reaching for his handcuffs. "Ryan Martinez, you're under arrest for assault, battery, domestic violence, bribery of a federal officer, and threatening a military official." When Ryan tried to order General Williams out of his room, the general's response was 4 words that changed everything. "Sir, you're under arrest." Ryan learned that morning that some arrests don't require handcuffs. Just the unbreakable authority of a man who's earned the right to be obeyed. The military police didn't rough him up. They didn't need to. Military justice operates with precision that makes civilian law enforcement look like amateur hour. Ryan sat in the back of the government vehicle, watching Dallas disappear through bulletproof glass, finally understanding that money was just paper when real power showed up. Have you ever seen someone's whole world collapse in real time? Comment below if you think Ryan finally gets what's coming to him. At the federal detention facility, Ryan's expensive phone calls went nowhere fast. His first lawyer dropped the case after one conversation with military prosecutors. The second one quoted fees that made Ryan's oil investments look like pocket change. The third one was honest enough to say what the others were thinking. "You're screwed." Meanwhile, General Williams sat with Layla in her hospital room, baby Marcus sleeping peacefully between them. 3 generations together for the first time. The general studied his grandson's tiny features, seeing Layla's mother in the curve of his nose, his own father's stubborn chin. "He's beautiful, sweetheart." The general's voice carried emotions he'd buried under decades of military discipline. "Looks like you when you were born." Layla shifted carefully, still sore from delivery and the assault. "I was scared you wouldn't come." 15 years is a long time. 15 years, 8 months, 12 days. The general's precision surprised her. "I counted every one. Not a day passed that I didn't think about you. This is what real love looks like. Not control disguised as protection, but strength used to set people free. Share if you agree." The door opened, and a woman in a sharp business suit walked in. Federal prosecutor Jennifer Martinez had built her career on cases others wouldn't touch. Domestic violence involving military families, political corruption, corporate crime that thought money bought immunity. General Williams? She extended her hand. I am Prosecutor Martinez. I'll be handling your daughter's case. Mom. The general stood, shaking her hand with respect earned through shared service to justice. Mr. Ryan Thompson has been charged with aggravated domestic violence, assault on a military dependent, and intimidation of a federal witness. Martinez spoke like she was reading a grocery list, but her eyes burned with purpose. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Layla's eyes widened. That much? Your father's service record carries weight in federal court. When someone assaults the daughter of a decorated combat veteran. Martinez smiled grimly. Let's just say judges don't look kindly on that kind of disrespect. Have you ever seen karma work with military efficiency? Type justice if you think Ryan picked the wrong family to terrorize. Back in detention, Ryan paced his cell like a caged animal. The holding facility wasn't some country club minimum security resort his lawyer friends had whispered about. Federal detention meant concrete walls, steel bars, and inmates who didn't care about his oil money or political connections. His cellmate was a former gang member serving time for weapons charges. Tattoos covered his arms like sleeves, and he watched Ryan with amusement. First time, the cellmate's voice carried street wisdom earned through hard experience. This is temporary. My lawyers will have me out by morning. Ryan tried to sound confident, but his voice cracked like a teenager asking for a date. The cellmate laughed. Brother, I've been in the system 15 years. Military cases don't play. When Uncle Sam wants you, money just makes the fall hurt more. Ryan slumped on the narrow bench that passed for a bed. Everything he'd built, the respect, the fear, the control, meant nothing here. Subscribe if you want to see how the mighty fall when they forget that real power isn't bought, it's earned. General Williams spent the night in the hospital chair beside Layla's bed. He'd slept in worse places. Foxholes in Afghanistan, transport planes over Iraq, forward operating bases where mortar rounds provided the soundtrack. But this was different. This was personal. Around midnight, Layla woke to find her father reading files by the dim overhead light. Can't sleep either, she whispered. Occupational hazard. Soldiers learn to sleep when they can, stay awake when they must. He closed the folder. These are character references for your case. Letters from senators, generals, Medal of Honor recipients. Men who served with me want Ryan to understand what happens when you mess with military families. Layla felt tears building, not from pain this time, but from gratitude. I thought you'd forgotten about me. Impossible. The general reached over, taking her hand like he used to when she was small. Every mission I ran, every battle I fought, I carried your picture. You were my reminder of what I was protecting back home. The morning brought news that spread through Dallas like wildfire. Ryan Thompson, oil millionaire and political donor, arrested on federal charges. His business partners started distancing themselves before the coffee got cold. Political allies discovered urgent meetings elsewhere. Social circles that once courted his money suddenly had no memory of his phone number. Comment karma if you think Ryan's learning that money can't buy loyalty when the heat gets real. At the arraignment, Ryan wore an orange jumpsuit instead of Armani. His hair was disheveled, his skin pale from sleepless nights. The federal judge reviewed the charges with the expression of someone reading particularly distasteful news. Mr. Thompson, you're charged with felony domestic violence against a military dependent. How do you plead? Ryan's public defender whispered urgent advice, but Ryan's ego couldn't let go. Your Honor, this is clearly a case of military overreach. I have rights. The judge's gavel cut him off like a sword through silk. Sir, in my courtroom, the only rights that matter are the ones you didn't violate when you assaulted a pregnant woman. Bail denied. Trial date set for 6 weeks from today. Back at the hospital, General Williams received the call with satisfaction that ran bone deep. Justice wasn't always swift, but when it came, it hit like artillery fire. Layla held baby Marcus close, watching her father end the call that sealed her abuser's fate. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like she could breathe freely. What happens now, she asked. General Williams stood at the window, looking out at the Dallas skyline where Ryan once ruled through fear and money. Now he learns what happens when bullies pick fights with the wrong family. The man who terrorized his wife for years was about to discover that some fathers fight back with the full weight of American military justice behind them. Some fathers teach you to ride bikes. Others teach you that no one has the right to break what they didn't build. The hospital room felt different now. Quiet in a good way, like the peaceful silence after a storm passes. General Williams sat beside Layla's bed, holding his grandson while she finally got real sleep for the first time in months. Baby Marcus seemed to sense the change too. Calm, content, protected by a grandfather who'd fought wars to keep his family safe. Have you ever felt that moment when safety finally arrives? When you realize the nightmare is actually over? Share this if you know what real protection feels like. Tell me about Mom. Layla's voice was soft, tired, but curious. She'd woken to find her father still there, still watching over her like a guardian angel in dress uniform. General Williams shifted baby Marcus to one arm, reaching into his wallet with the other. He pulled out a photo worn soft from years of handling. Layla's mother at 25, beautiful and young, holding baby Layla in a hospital bed much like this one. She was the strongest woman I ever knew. Beautiful, smart, stubborn as a mule when she believed in something. His voice carried love and regret in equal measure. She deserved better than a man who was never home. Layla studied the photo, seeing herself in her mother's eyes, seeing baby Marcus in her own infant face. Why did you really leave, Dad? The question hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. General Williams had prepared for enemy interrogation, hostile negotiations, diplomatic crises. Nothing prepared him for his daughter's simple need to understand. I was 28 when you were born. Young, stupid, convinced that my duty to country came before everything else. He looked out the window at the Dallas morning. Your mother asked me to choose the military or my family. I thought I could have both. I was wrong. Type family first if you think it's never too late to choose what really matters. The divorce papers came while I was deployed in Bosnia. I could have come home, fought for custody, chosen my family over my career. The general's voice carried the weight of decades of regret. Instead, I convinced myself that serving my country was serving you, that the sacrifices I made in combat were somehow protecting you back home. Layla reached for his hand. Were they? Maybe. Probably. But protection from a distance isn't the same as being present for the daily moments that build a life. He squeezed her fingers gently. I missed your first steps, your first words, your first day of school. I protected strangers' children while my own daughter grew up without her father. The confession hung in the air like incense, heavy with truth and healing. But you came when I needed you most. Layla's voice was stronger now, more certain. Ryan always said I was alone, that nobody cared what happened to me. He was wrong, dead wrong. General Williams' military bearing returned, steel in his voice. You're Williams. We don't abandon family. We don't surrender. And we sure as hell don't let bullies win. Baby Marcus stirred in his grandfather's arms, tiny fist grabbing at the ribbons on the general's uniform. 3 generations connected by blood and strengthened by battle. Subscribe if you believe in second chances and fathers who fight for their families. I want to understand the military life that took you away. Layla's request surprised them both. Not to blame you, but to understand what seemed more important than being home. General Williams considered this carefully. Military life was hard to explain to civilians. The brotherhood forged in combat. The responsibility for lives under your command. The knowledge that your decisions in some foreign desert might prevent terrorist attacks on American soil. Imagine knowing that your choices could save 100 lives or cost them. That intelligence you gathered might prevent another 9/11, or missing it might cost thousands of American lives. He spoke slowly, choosing words carefully. Every deployment felt like choosing between protecting my known family and protecting my unknown family. Every American back home. Layla nodded, beginning to understand the impossible weight her father had carried. But here's what I learned too late, the general continued. You can't protect everyone. And trying to protect Everyone often means failing to protect anyone completely. I chose the mission over the moment, duty over family, service over presence. I was wrong. The admission cost him, but it freed them both. Comment forgiveness if you think understanding leads to healing. What about now? Layla asked. Your career, your rank, your responsibilities? General Williams looked at his grandson, then at his daughter, then back at the future in his arms. 40,000 soldiers will be fine without me. But this little boy needs his grandfather, and his mother needs her father. The words were simple, but they rewrote the story of 3 generations. I'm retiring, sweetheart. Full pension, full benefits, full presence in your life, if you'll have me. The general's voice was steady as orders given on a battlefield. Some battles are worth fighting far from home. But the most important battle, protecting my family, happens right here. Layla felt tears building, but they were good tears this time. Healing tears. What if I mess up? What if I make bad choices again? Then we'll handle it together. That's what families do. General Williams shifted baby Marcus back to his mother's arms. Real strength isn't about never falling. It's about having people who help you get back up. The hospital room door opened and Prosecutor Martinez walked in with updates that would reshape all their futures. Good news, she announced. Ryan's business partners are cooperating with federal investigators. Turns out domestic violence was just the beginning. Tax evasion, money laundering, political bribery. Your ex-husband built his empire on quicksand. Layla's eyes widened. How long will he be in prison? If convicted on all charges? 25 to life. Martinez smiled with satisfaction earned through years of fighting for victims. Money can't buy innocence when the evidence is overwhelming. General Williams stood, extending his hand to the prosecutor. Thank you for your service to justice, ma'am. Thank you for your service to our country, General. And for raising a daughter brave enough to speak truth to power. Hit the like button if you think bad guys should face consequences for all their crimes, not just the ones they get caught for. As evening approached, Layla watched her father organize her immediate future with military precision. Safe housing away from Ryan's influence. Legal protection for baby Marcus. Financial independence through victim compensation and asset recovery. Educational opportunities to build her own career. You don't have to do all this, she said. Yes, I do. General Williams was folding baby clothes with the same attention to detail he'd once given to military equipment. 15 years of missed opportunities. I'm making up for lost time. That night, as General Williams kept watch in the hospital chair, Layla finally slept without fear for the first time in years. Baby Marcus rested peacefully between his mother and grandfather, protected by love that would never leave them undefended again. The man who'd chosen duty over family had finally learned that family was the highest duty of all. Ryan's expensive lawyers met their match when they faced a military legal system that doesn't negotiate with domestic terrorists. The law offices of Morrison, Burke & Associates occupied 3 floors of downtown Dallas's most expensive building. Persian rugs, Italian leather chairs, and law degrees from Harvard decorated the conference room, where Ryan's legal team tried to salvage the unsalvageable. Military jurisdiction is limited, Ryan's lead attorney argued, adjusting his $1,000 tie. We can challenge this on constitutional grounds. Federal Prosecutor Martinez sat across the polished table with files thick as telephone books. Military lawyers flanked her like honor guards, their uniforms crisp as their legal arguments. Gentlemen, let me educate you about military-dependent law. Martinez began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd won cases these lawyers only read about in law journals. When someone assaults the family member of active military personnel, federal jurisdiction is immediate and absolute. Have you ever watched expensive lawyers realize their money can't buy them out of every problem? Comment checkmate if you think Ryan's legal team just got schooled. Ryan squirmed in his chair, orange jumpsuit a stark contrast to the luxury surrounding them. 3 weeks in federal detention had stripped away his arrogance, replacing it with the hollow-eyed desperation of a man watching his empire crumble. The evidence is overwhelming, Martinez continued, spreading crime scene photos across the conference table. Hospital security footage, medical documentation, witness testimony from 4 nurses and 2 doctors. Your client assaulted a 9-month pregnant woman during active labor. The lead defense attorney tried a different approach. My client was under extreme stress. New father, business pressures, stress. The military legal advisor spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who'd prosecuted war crimes. General Williams was under stress, commanding 40,000 soldiers in active combat zones. He never once raised his hand to his wife. The room fell silent except for the whisper of air conditioning and Ryan's labored breathing. Martinez opened another file. But domestic violence is just the beginning. Financial Crimes Division has been very interested in Mr. Thompson's business practices. Ryan's face went pale. What are you talking about? Tax evasion, money laundering, bribery of public officials, fraud. Martinez read the charges like a shopping list. Amazing what investigators find when they really start digging. Your oil investments were funded through some very creative accounting. Share this video if you think criminals who hurt families deserve to face consequences for all their crimes. The defense attorney tried to maintain composure, but sweat beaded on his forehead. These additional charges are clearly retaliation for the domestic violence arrest. Prosecutorial overreach. Hardly. Martinez smiled with the satisfaction of a chess player announcing checkmate. Financial Crimes started investigating Thompson Oil 18 months ago. The domestic violence arrest just gave us federal jurisdiction to accelerate the timeline. Ryan's world wasn't just falling apart. It was being systematically dismantled by people who understood that justice delayed is justice denied. At the hospital, General Williams received updates via secure phone while Layla recovered. Baby Marcus slept peacefully in his mother's arms, unaware that his father's criminal empire was collapsing in real time. 23 separate federal charges, the general reported to Layla after ending his call. Ryan didn't just hit you. He built his entire life on illegal foundations. Layla adjusted baby Marcus, still processing the scope of her ex-husband's crimes. I knew something was wrong with his business. Late-night phone calls, cash payments, meetings with people who looked like they'd rather shoot you than shake your hand. Your instincts were right. Military intelligence ran a background check after the assault. Ryan Thompson has connections to organized crime, political corruption, and financial fraud spanning 3 states. Type justice if you think bad guys should face consequences for every crime they commit. The legal warfare intensified over the following weeks. Ryan's high-priced defense team filed motion after motion, trying to separate the domestic violence charges from the financial crimes. Military prosecutors responded with precision that made civilian lawyers look like amateurs. Meanwhile, General Williams used his contacts to ensure Layla's safety during the legal proceedings. Former Special Forces soldiers provided discreet security. Military intelligence monitored threats. Combat veterans who'd served under the general sent messages of support that filled Layla's hospital room with flowers and cards. "I never knew you had so many friends," Layla said, reading another letter from a soldier whose life her father had saved in Afghanistan. "In the military, we look out for each other's families." When word spread that my daughter had been hurt, the general's voice carried pride and gratitude. "These men would take bullets for me. Protecting you and Marcus is their honor." The support overwhelmed Layla. After years of isolation and abuse, she discovered she had an entire community ready to defend her. Subscribe if you believe in the power of people who stand up for what's right. Ryan's legal troubles multiplied like cancer cells. Business partners turned states' evidence to avoid their own prosecutions. Political allies deleted his phone number and denied knowing him. Social connections evaporated like morning dew under legal scrutiny. The oil empire he'd built through intimidation and illegal practices collapsed in spectacular fashion. Federal agents seized assets, froze accounts, and padlocked properties. Ryan Thompson went from millionaire to federal prisoner in 6 weeks flat. His final court appearance before trial was a masterclass in justice served cold. Orange jumpsuit, shackled hands. Public defender who'd been assigned the case 3 days earlier after his expensive lawyers abandoned ship. Your Honor, the overworked public defender began. My client is prepared to discuss a plea agreement. Federal Judge Patricia Stone looked at Ryan with the expression usually reserved for particularly distasteful insects. Mr. Thompson, you stand accused of 23 federal felonies. What could you possibly offer the government that would interest us in negotiation? Ryan tried to speak, but only managed to whisper. I have information about other people, other crimes. You mean you're willing to betray your criminal associates to save yourself? Judge Stone's voice carried contempt earned through 30 years of watching criminals try to bargain their way out of consequences. How noble. Prosecutor Martinez stood. Your Honor, the government is not interested in any plea bargain. The evidence is overwhelming. The crimes are serious, and the defendant showed no mercy to his victims. We will seek maximum sentences on all charges. Comment NO deals if you think some criminals deserve the full weight of justice. General Williams attended every hearing, sitting in the gallery where Ryan could see him. Military uniform pressed to perfection, ribbons telling stories of real courage, eyes never leaving the man who'd hurt his daughter. The message was clear. Justice was watching, and justice had teeth. After the final pre-trial hearing, General Williams walked outside where reporters waited. He'd avoided media interviews, but something about Ryan's desperate plea bargaining attempt demanded response. General Williams, a reporter called out, "Any comment on Thompson's offer to cooperate with investigators?" The general paused, considering his words carefully. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who'd earned the right to be heard. In the military, we have a saying, courage under fire. Mr. Thompson showed no courage when he assaulted my pregnant daughter. He's showing no courage now, trying to blame others for his choices. The general's gaze was steady as steel. Real men take responsibility for their actions. Cowards look for someone else to blame. The statement made every news broadcast in Texas. Ryan Thompson, watching from his cell, finally understood that money couldn't buy respect, lawyers couldn't buy character, and plea bargains couldn't buy back the dignity he'd forfeited when he raised his hand to the wrong woman. Tomorrow, he would face a jury of 12 people who would decide whether justice was blind or just patient. The story that broke across Dallas wasn't about a rich man's fall. It was about a soldier's promise finally kept. Channel 8 News led their morning broadcast with footage that went viral before the coffee got cold. General Marcus Williams in full dress uniform, walking up the courthouse steps with his daughter Layla and grandson Marcus. Military precision met family protection in a moment that reminded America what real strength looked like. This is the video everyone's talking about. Anchor Jessica Chen announced. A decorated Army general standing with his daughter during her abuser's trial. The internet is calling him Father of the Year. Have you ever seen a moment that restores your faith in family? Share this if you think every daughter deserves a father who shows up when it matters. Social media exploded with support. #GeneralDad trending nationwide. Veterans sharing their own stories of military families standing together. Domestic violence survivors finding courage in Layla's example. The story touched something deep in America's heart. The belief that some lines should never be crossed. But not everyone celebrated. Ryan's remaining business associates hired crisis management firms to contain the damage spreading through Dallas's elite circles. Country club memberships were quietly canceled. Political donations were hastily returned. Charity boards discovered urgent reasons to remove Thompson Oil's name from buildings and scholarships. Money talks, but when money gets arrested for federal crimes, it suddenly develops a very quiet voice. At Channel 8 Studios, investigative reporter Marcus Rodriguez had been following Thompson Oil's financial irregularities for 2 years. The domestic violence arrest gave him the opening he'd been waiting for to expose everything. Sources inside the FBI tell us the Thompson investigation has uncovered a network of corruption reaching into City Hall, the state legislature, and federal contracts, Rodriguez reported. What started as a domestic violence case has become the largest political corruption investigation in Texas history. General Williams watched the news coverage from Layla's new apartment, a secure location far from Ryan's influence, protected by veterans who considered guarding their general's family the highest honor. "I never wanted to be famous," Layla said, bouncing baby Marcus while reporters camped outside the building. "You're not famous," her father replied, adjusting the blinds to block telephoto lenses. "You're free. Everything else is just noise. Type freedom if you think surviving abuse and speaking truth is more important than privacy." The media attention brought unexpected allies. Senator Patricia Morrison, the first female combat veteran elected from Texas, issued a statement that made front pages across the country. "General Williams represents the best of American military families," Morrison announced. His daughter's courage in speaking out against domestic violence, combined with his lifetime of service to our nation, reminds us that true strength protects the vulnerable rather than exploiting them. The statement was political gold, but it was also personal. Senator Morrison had served under General Williams in Afghanistan, where his leadership had saved her unit from Taliban ambush. Supporting his family wasn't politics. It was loyalty earned through blood and brotherhood. Ryan's lawyers tried to use the media attention to claim their client couldn't get a fair trial. Federal Judge Patricia Stone wasn't impressed. Mr. Thompson's legal team argues that media coverage has prejudiced potential jurors, Judge Stone said during a pretrial hearing. However, the media is simply reporting facts already established through evidence. If those facts are damaging to the defendant, perhaps he should have considered that before committing federal crimes. The courtroom erupted in restrained applause, as much as federal court decorum allowed. Subscribe if you think judges should prioritize justice over protecting criminals' feelings. The trial began on a Monday morning that would be remembered in Dallas legal circles for decades. Federal courthouse security was unprecedented, not because of threats, but because of supporters. Veterans in dress uniform lined the courthouse steps. Domestic violence advocates held silent vigil. Media trucks created a technological city block. General Williams escorted Layla through the crowd with military precision, baby Marcus secure in his carrier. The visual was powerful. 3 generations protected by a grandfather who'd learned that family was the most important mission of all. Inside the courtroom, Ryan looked smaller somehow. Federal detention had stripped away his arrogance, replacing it with the hollow desperation of a man watching his life's work exposed as criminal enterprise. The jury selection process revealed America's true feelings about military families and domestic violence. Potential jurors competed to serve, wanting to be part of justice finally delivered. Have you or anyone in your family serve in the military? Prosecutor Martinez asked each potential juror. Hands shot up across the courtroom. Sons, daughters, spouses, parents, military service touched every family in Texas. Ryan's lawyers tried to exclude military-connected jurors, but Judge Stone ruled that military service created respect for law and order, not prejudice against defendants. Comment serve if you think military families understand justice better than most. The opening statements drew battle lines clear as artillery coordinates. Prosecutor Martinez painted Ryan as a predator who used wealth to intimidate and abuse. Defense attorney Johnson portrayed him as a stressed businessman who made one terrible mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, Martinez began. This case is about power and how it's used. Real power protects. Fake power destroys. General Williams used his power to serve his country and protect his family. Ryan Thompson used his power to terrorize a pregnant woman. The courtroom was silent as Martinez detailed the evidence. Security footage, medical reports, witness testimony, financial crimes that funded Ryan's lifestyle of intimidation. Defense attorney Johnson tried to humanize his client, but every word rang hollow against the mountain of evidence. Ryan Thompson made a mistake, Johnson argued. One moment of poor judgment during an extremely stressful time. But that moment shouldn't define his entire life. General Williams sat in the gallery, uniform perfect, medals catching courtroom lights, eyes never leaving the man who'd hurt his daughter. His presence reminded everyone that some mistakes have consequences that last a lifetime. The first witness was emergency room Dr. Patricia Walsh, who treated Layla after the assault. Her testimony was clinical but devastating. "I've treated domestic violence victims for 15 years, Dr. Walsh said. What I saw that night was systematic abuse, not a momentary lapse in judgment. The patient showed signs of long-term psychological trauma consistent with ongoing intimidation and control." Ryan's lawyer tried to discredit the medical evidence, but Dr. Walsh's expertise was unshakable. When she described Layla's injuries in detail, several jurors looked at Ryan with expressions usually reserved for particularly disgusting insects. The media coverage that night focused on one moment that captured everything. As General Williams helped Layla from the courthouse, a reporter shouted a question. "General, what do you want people to know about military families?" The general paused, considering his words carefully. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 3 decades defending America. "Military families understand sacrifice. We understand duty. We understand that real strength protects the innocent rather than preying on them." He looked directly into the camera. "Every daughter deserves a father who will fight for her. Every woman deserves protection from those who would hurt her. And every coward who raises his hand to a woman deserves to face the consequences." The statement went viral within hours. #RealStrength trending worldwide. Military bases from Germany to South Korea sharing the video. Veterans calling local news stations to express support for their general and his family. Hit the like button if you think General Williams just reminded America what real men look like. Ryan watched the news coverage from his cell, finally understanding that he hadn't just assaulted a woman. He'd attacked America's idea of what military families represent. The man who'd built his empire on fear and intimidation was about to learn that some battles can't be won with money. Tomorrow, the prosecution would begin presenting evidence that would bury him deeper than any oil well he'd ever drilled. Ryan thought losing his freedom was the worst thing that could happen, until he realized he was also losing everything else he'd built on a foundation of fear. The courthouse steps buzzed with reporters and cameras, but inside courtroom 4B, the real show was about to begin. Ryan sat at the defendant's table, his expensive suit wrinkled from 3 weeks in county jail. His lawyers, what was left of them, shuffled papers nervously. 2 had already quit. The remaining attorney looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Have you ever watched someone's entire world collapse in real time? Because that's exactly what happened when the prosecutor stood up with a file thick enough to stop a bullet. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this case isn't just about one night in a hospital room. It's about a pattern of control, violence, and manipulation that lasted years." Ryan's oil company had been the first domino to fall. When news broke about the assault, his business partners ran faster than rats from sinking ship. Nobody wanted their name associated with a man who hit pregnant women. The board voted him out before he even made bail. But wait, it gets worse for Ryan. Hit the like button if you think karma has perfect timing, because what happened next proved that sometimes the universe keeps receipts. The prosecutor pulled out exhibit after exhibit. Bank records showing Ryan cutting off Layla's access to money when she misbehaved. Text messages where he threatened to take her unborn child away. Hospital records from previous accidents that suddenly made perfect sense. Each piece of evidence hit Ryan like a physical blow. His face went from confident to confused to completely broken. In the gallery, General Williams sat in full dress uniform, watching his daughter's abuser finally face consequences. The most damaging testimony came from Ryan's own housekeeper, Maria, who'd worked for him for 8 years. She spoke through tears about the bruises she'd seen on Layla, the broken dishes after Ryan's bad days, the way Layla would flinch when he raised his voice. She was like a ghost in her own house, Maria testified, always walking on eggshells, always apologizing for things that weren't her fault. Ryan's attorney tried objecting, but the damage was done. The jury watched this powerful man, who once commanded boardrooms and million-dollar deals, reduced to a wife-beating coward who picked on someone half his size. Share this video if you believe abusers should face the full weight of justice. The real estate empire Ryan had built over 20 years? Gone. His oil investments? Frozen pending criminal investigation. The luxury cars, the penthouse, the country club membership, all of it disappeared faster than his fake charm when General Williams entered that hospital room. Layla took the witness stand on day 3 of the trial. She wore a simple blue dress and spoke clearly, without tears, describing years of escalating abuse. She talked about the isolation, the financial control, the threats about their unborn child. "He told me nobody would believe me," she said, looking directly at the jury. "He said his money and connections made him untouchable. He was wrong." The courtroom was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. Even the bailiff wiped his eyes when Layla described being afraid to leave because Ryan threatened to use his wealth to take her baby away permanently. Ryan's defense strategy fell apart like wet cardboard. His lawyers tried arguing that he was under stress from becoming a new father. The jury wasn't buying it. You could see in their faces 12 people who understood that stress doesn't excuse violence. General Williams testified about receiving that phone call in Syria, about flying across the world to protect his daughter, about finding her broken and afraid in that hospital bed. His voice never wavered, but his eyes burned with controlled fury that made everyone in the courtroom understand exactly why Ryan should be very, very afraid. Comment justice if you think Ryan deserves everything that's coming to him. The prosecutor's closing argument destroyed what little remained of Ryan's reputation. She walked the jury through a timeline of escalating abuse, showing how Ryan used his wealth as a weapon against a woman who had nowhere to turn. This defendant didn't just hit a pregnant woman, she concluded. He systematically destroyed her sense of self-worth, isolated her from support systems, and used his financial power to make her believe she was trapped. What you witnessed in that hospital room wasn't an isolated incident. It was the inevitable explosion of years of calculated cruelty. Ryan's empire wasn't just falling, it was being bulldozed with him still inside. The prosecutor's closing argument left the courtroom in stunned silence. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not just deciding Ryan's fate, you're deciding whether money can buy the right to terrorize. 12 jurors took less than 2 hours to decide what Ryan had spent years trying to hide. That wealth without character is just expensive emptiness. The jury foreman stood up holding the verdict sheet, and you could feel the tension in the air like electricity before lightning strikes. Ryan's hands shook as he gripped the defendant's table. General Williams sat stone-faced in the gallery, one arm around Layla, who held her sleeping son against her chest. Have you ever been in a room where justice was about to be served? The silence before a verdict is different from any other quiet. It's loaded with possibility, heavy with consequences. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty. The word hit Ryan like a sledgehammer. His remaining lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but Ryan just stared straight ahead like he couldn't process what was happening. On the charge of domestic violence in the presence of a minor, we find the defendant guilty. Layla squeezed her father's hand. This was really happening. The man who'd made her afraid to speak above a whisper was being held accountable by 12 strangers who saw through his expensive facade. On the charge of terroristic threatening, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 7 charges, 7 guilty verdicts. Each one stripped away another layer of Ryan's imagined protection until all that remained was a broken man facing the consequences of his choices. Share this if you believe in the power of ordinary people delivering extraordinary justice. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following week, but everyone in that courtroom knew Ryan's fate was sealed. Texas doesn't play games with men who hit pregnant women, especially when the whole world is watching. During the recess, reporters surrounded General Williams and Layla on the courthouse steps. She spoke with a confidence that amazed everyone who'd known her during her marriage to Ryan. "This verdict isn't just about me," she said, holding her son close. "It's about every woman who's been told she's powerless. Every victim who's been convinced their abuser is untouchable. Today proves that no amount of money can buy immunity from justice." The cameras captured General Williams in his dress uniform, medals catching the Texas sunlight, standing proudly behind his daughter as she reclaimed her voice. This was the moment he dreamed of during all those sleepless nights in combat zones. Not victory over foreign enemies, but protecting his own child. Comment accountability if you think this is how all abusers should be handled. Sentencing day arrived with media trucks lining the courthouse block. Inside, Ryan looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 days. His expensive suit hung loose on his shrinking frame. The man who once filled rooms with arrogant energy now seemed to be disappearing before everyone's eyes. Judge Martinez had a reputation for tough sentences, and she didn't disappoint. She looked directly at Ryan as she spoke. "Mr. Ryan Morrison, you used your wealth and position to terrorize a vulnerable woman. You isolated her, controlled her, and ultimately assaulted her during one of the most vulnerable moments in any woman's life, childbirth. This court sentences you to the maximum penalty under law. 15 years in state prison, no possibility of parole for 7 years. 15 years. The number echoed through the courtroom like a death knell for Ryan's old life. His shoulders sagged as the reality hit him. He'd be an old man when he got out, if he lived that long. But Judge Martinez wasn't finished. Furthermore, you are permanently barred from any contact with the victim or the minor child. All assets remain frozen pending civil proceedings. You have demonstrated that wealth without conscience is simply expensive evil, and this court ensures you'll have plenty of time to contemplate that truth." The bailiff approached with handcuffs. Ryan, the man who'd once commanded boardrooms and intimidated employees, shuffled toward his new reality in shackles. Layla's victim impact statement had moved the entire courtroom to tears. She spoke about rebuilding her life, about her son growing up knowing his mother was strong enough to stand up to any bully, about turning her pain into purpose by helping other women escape similar situations. Hit subscribe if you believe survivors deserve to see their abusers face real consequences. As the courthouse emptied, General Williams walked with his daughter and grandson toward their new life. Reporters shouted questions, but the family just smiled and kept walking. They had nothing left to prove to anyone. The man who'd once owned half of Dallas real estate was now property of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. His penthouse would be sold to pay legal fees and victim compensation. His cars would be auctioned. His country club would find a new member to fill his spot. Ryan's fall from grace wasn't just complete. It was spectacular, public, and permanent. As Ryan was led away in shackles, General Williams whispered to Layla, "Now the real work begins, building the life you deserve." The house that Ryan built with money crumbled, but the foundation Layla built with courage would last generations. 6 months after Ryan's sentencing, Layla stood in the doorway of her new home. A modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet Dallas suburb where kids played in front yards and neighbors knew each other's names. It was everything Ryan's mansion wasn't. Warm, welcoming, and filled with genuine love. Have you ever felt the relief of finally being safe in your own space? That's what washed over Layla every morning when she woke up without fear. General Williams had taken early retirement to help raise his grandson and make up for lost time with his daughter. The military man who'd commanded thousands of soldiers now spent his days teaching a toddler to stack blocks and reading bedtime stories about brave princesses who rescued themselves. "Grandpa, tell the dragon story again," little Marcus demanded, climbing onto his grandfather's lap with all the confidence of a child who'd never known fear in his own home. General Williams smiled, launching into another tale of courage conquering cruelty. These stories weren't just entertainment. They were legacy, teaching the next generation that strength protects, it doesn't control. Comment new beginnings if you believe in the power of starting over stronger. Layla had discovered something amazing about herself during those months of healing. She was naturally gifted at helping others find their own strength. Word spread quietly through Dallas social services about the young woman who'd survived public domestic violence and now volunteered at women's shelters. Her first speaking engagement happened by accident. A shelter director asked if she'd share her story with a support group, just 5 women trying to rebuild their lives. Layla's hands shook as she spoke, but her voice stayed steady. I used to think love meant someone taking care of everything for me. I learned the hard way that real love gives you wings, not chains. Those 5 women became 10, then 20. Within months, Layla was leading workshops across Texas, teaching women to recognize manipulation disguised as protection, control masquerading as care. The civil lawsuit against Ryan's estate provided financial security for Layla and Marcus, but more importantly, it sent a message to every abuser watching. There would be consequences, financial and otherwise, for terrorizing innocent people. Share this video if you think survivors can become the strongest advocates for change. General Williams watched his daughter bloom into someone he'd never imagined. Confident, purposeful, and absolutely fearless when it came to protecting others the way he'd protected her. She'd found her mission, just like he'd found his all those years ago when he first put on the uniform. Dad, do you ever regret choosing the military over family? Layla asked one evening as they watched Marcus play in the backyard. The general considered his answer carefully. I regret the timing, he said finally, but not the service. It taught me how to be the father you needed when you finally called. Sometimes we have to take the long road to get where we're supposed to be. Evening walks became their tradition. 3 generations strolling through a neighborhood where Layla felt safe enough to let Marcus run ahead, where she could laugh without looking over her shoulder, where normal felt like the greatest luxury in the world. The local news did a follow-up story 6 months after the trial. They found Layla volunteering at a community center, teaching self-defense classes to teenage girls. She looked directly into the camera with eyes that sparkled with purpose. I want every young woman watching to know, if someone claims to love you but makes you afraid, that's not love. If someone says they're protecting you but won't let you have friends, that's not protection. Real love makes you stronger, not smaller. Type stronger if you've learned that surviving something terrible can make you unstoppable. Marcus took his first independent steps in that backyard, with his mother and grandfather cheering him on. It felt symbolic, a child taking confident steps forward in a space built on love instead of fear, security instead of control. Ryan, meanwhile, was learning a different kind of lesson in his prison cell. Without money to smooth his way, without influence to bend rules in his favor, he was just another inmate serving time for domestic violence. His cellmate was a man convicted of armed robbery who had 0 patience for guys who hit women. Prison was teaching Ryan what Layla had always known. When you can't buy your way out of consequences, you have to live with the choices you've made. The contrast couldn't have been starker. While Ryan counted days in a concrete cell, his former victim was building something beautiful from the ashes of their destroyed marriage. 1 year later, as Layla watched her father teach her son to walk, she realized this was what protection actually looked like. Not control, but love setting you free. She started as a victim, became a survivor, and ended as something more powerful, a woman who knew her worth and wouldn't accept anything less. 2 years after Ryan's conviction, Layla stood at the podium of the Texas Women's Safety Conference, looking out at an audience of 500 survivors, advocates, and law enforcement officers. The scared young woman who once whispered apologies for breathing had become a voice that commanded attention across the state. Have you ever witnessed someone transform their worst experience into their greatest strength? That's exactly what happened when Layla turned her survival into service. 2 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, 9 months pregnant, with a handprint across my face. She began, her voice carrying easily through the conference hall. Today, I'm standing here because one phone call proved that real protection doesn't isolate, it empowers. The audience erupted in applause. In the front row, General Williams sat in civilian clothes, his chest swelling with pride that had nothing to do with military medals and everything to do with the incredible woman his daughter had become. Marcus, now a confident 3-year-old, played quietly with building blocks in the conference child care center. He was growing up in a world where his mother's strength was normal, where his grandfather's protection came with teaching him to protect others, where love looked like encouragement instead of control. Share this if you believe children should see their parents as examples of strength, not fear. The nonprofit organization Layla founded, Foundations of Freedom, had helped over 200 women leave abusive situations in its first year. But unlike traditional shelters that focused only on emergency housing, Layla's program addressed the psychological manipulation that kept women trapped long after physical abuse began. Abusers don't start with hitting, she explained to her audience. They start with isolation, with financial control, with making you question your own judgment. By the time violence begins, they've already convinced you that you're powerless to leave. Her workshops taught women to recognize early warning signs. Partners who cut them off from friends, who controlled access to money, who claimed their jealousy was proof of love. Most importantly, she taught them that asking for help wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Comment empowerment if you think education is the best weapon against abuse. General Williams had found his own post-military mission supporting his daughter's work. His background in strategic planning proved invaluable in organizing resources, and his military connections provided security for women fleeing dangerous situations. Some battles you fight with weapons, he told a group of young veterans he'd recruited to volunteer. Others you fight with compassion, organization, and the determination to ensure evil doesn't win. This is the most important mission I've ever served. The media loved the story, decorated military father and empowered daughter working together to protect other families. But for Layla and General Williams, it wasn't about publicity. It was about ensuring no other woman would have to choose between safety and financial survival. Ryan's appeals had all been denied. His former business associates refused to visit or take his calls from prison. The man who'd once influenced city council meetings now spent his days mopping prison floors and learning what real powerlessness felt like. His former mansion had been converted into transitional housing for abuse survivors, the ultimate victory of good over evil. Women who'd escaped situations similar to Layla's now found safety in the very walls where Ryan had once plotted to control his wife. Hit the like button if you think this is perfect justice. The ripple effects of Layla's work extended far beyond Dallas. Other states began implementing her curriculum. Law enforcement agencies invited her to train officers on recognizing psychological abuse. Even international women's rights organizations reached out for guidance. But the moment that meant the most came during a quiet evening at home. Marcus, playing with toy soldiers, looked up at his grandfather and asked, "Grandpa, why do you have so many medals?" General Williams knelt to his grandson's level and said, "Because sometimes good people have to fight to protect others. But the real heroes are people like your mom, who turn their hurt into help for others." Marcus nodded solemnly, then went back to his game, arranging the toy soldiers in protective formation around the action figures representing families. Even at 3, he understood that strength was meant to protect, not harm. Type protection if you believe real heroes use their power to lift others up. Layla's speaking fees and book deal had provided financial independence she'd never known during her marriage to Ryan. But unlike the wealth that had trapped her before, this money came with freedom, the knowledge that she'd earned it through her own strength, her own voice, her own courage. The little boy who'd been born during the worst night of his mother's life was growing up witnessing the best of human nature. Adults who chose compassion over cruelty, service over selfishness, protection over control. As Layla addressed her first national conference on domestic violence, her father watched from the audience, finally understanding that his greatest military victory wasn't won on any battlefield. 10 years later, when her son asked why Grandpa had so many medals, Layla smiled and said, "Because sometimes heroes have to wait a lifetime to save the people who matter most." The conference center in Washington, D.C. buzzed with energy as delegates from all 50 states gathered for the National Domestic Violence Prevention Summit. At the main podium, Dr. Layla Williams Morrison. She kept her married name as a reminder of survival, prepared to deliver the keynote address that would shape federal policy for the next decade. Have you ever seen someone's pain become the foundation for healing an entire nation? That's exactly what happened when a young mother's cry for help became a movement that saved thousands of lives. 13-year-old Marcus sat in the VIP section, wearing a junior ROTC uniform that made his grandfather beam with pride. The boy who'd been born into violence was growing up to be a young man who understood that true strength meant protecting others, not intimidating them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Layla began, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd found her true calling. 10 years ago, I thought love meant someone else making all my decisions. Today, I know that real love gives you the power to make your own choices and the wisdom to choose protection over control. The audience of 2,000 rose in sustained applause. In the front row, General Williams, now grandfather to 3 grandchildren, as Layla had remarried a fellow advocate who treated her like the queen she'd always been, wiped away tears of pride. Share this video if you believe one person's courage can change the world. The Williams Protocol had become standard training in law enforcement agencies across America. Named after the general who'd shown that military precision could serve civilian protection, it required specific responses when domestic violence involved military families or when victims' relatives had military connections. But the real revolution was in the Layla laws. Legislation requiring financial institutions to flag accounts showing patterns of economic abuse, mandating domestic violence training for healthcare workers, and establishing emergency funds for women escaping controlling relationships. Marcus raised his hand during the Q&A session. "Dr. Williams, what advice would you give to kids whose parents are in bad relationships?" His mother's eyes filled with love as she answered, "Tell a trusted adult, your teacher, your neighbor, your coach, anyone who makes you feel safe. And remember, what happens between your parents isn't your fault, and there are people whose job it is to help families be safe and happy. Comment hope if you believe children deserve to grow up without fear." Ryan had died in prison 3 years earlier, a heart attack that surprised no one who'd watched his health deteriorate under the stress of incarceration and complete social isolation. Layla felt no joy at the news, only relief that the chapter was finally permanently closed. His obituary mentioned his business achievements, but couldn't avoid the domestic violence conviction that had defined his final years. The comment section filled with stories from other women who'd experienced his controlling behavior during business deals or social interactions, a pattern of manipulation that had extended far beyond his marriage. The most powerful moment of the summit came when Layla introduced a special guest, Maria, the housekeeper whose testimony had helped convict Ryan. Now in her 60s, Maria had become a community advocate in her own right, helping immigrant women recognize and escape abusive situations. "Mrs. Maria taught me that courage doesn't require perfect English or important connections," Layla told the audience. "It just requires the decision to do what's right, even when it's scary." Hit subscribe if you believe ordinary people can become extraordinary heroes. The evening gala featured a video tribute to General Williams, who was receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his post-military service protecting domestic violence survivors. The montage showed him in combat zones decades earlier, then transitioned to images of him teaching self-defense classes to teenage girls and loading moving trucks for women escaping abusive homes. "Some warriors fight foreign enemies," the narrator said. "Others fight the enemies that threaten families from within." General Marcus Williams proved that the greatest battles are often fought not with weapons, but with unwavering commitment to protecting the innocent. Marcus stood and applauded his grandfather with the enthusiasm of a young man who understood that heroism came in many forms. His school essays consistently featured themes of protection and service, not because he was pressured, but because he'd grown up watching adults who lived those values. Layla's acceptance speech for the Survivor Leadership Award brought the audience to its feet. 15 years ago, a wealthy man thought money made him untouchable. He was wrong. Today, his former victim addresses the nation's leaders about protecting other families. That's not revenge, that's redemption. Type redemption if you believe survivors can transform their pain into purpose. The summit concluded with the announcement of the Marcus Williams Youth Protection Initiative, a program training teenagers to recognize dating violence and support friends in unhealthy relationships. Named after both grandfather and grandson, it represented the generational impact of choosing courage over silence. As delegates headed home to implement new policies and programs, 3 generations of the Williams family walked together through the Capitol grounds. Marcus peppered his grandfather with questions about military strategy, while Layla fielded calls from reporters wanting interviews about the new federal legislation. "Mom," Marcus said during a quiet moment, "did you ever imagine it would get this big?" Layla looked at her son, confident, compassionate, and completely secure in his worth, and smiled. "I imagined you growing up safe. Everything else was just a bonus." The boy who'd been born during his mother's darkest hour was now a teenager who volunteered at women's shelters, tutored younger kids in conflict resolution, and wrote essays about his grandfather's medals with the understanding that real heroism meant protecting others. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to know that real protection comes from love, not control. Subscribe for more stories that prove strength comes in many forms, but the greatest strength is using your power to lift others up. Comment below, what would you do if someone you loved needed protection? Remember, heroes aren't born. They're made by the moments when they choose to act. Ryan's money had bought temporary power. General Williams' love had built lasting change. And Layla's courage had created a legacy that would protect families for generations to come. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought on foreign soil. They're fought in hospital rooms, courtrooms, and living rooms where love finally learns to look like protection instead of control.